Premiere Pro has several effects that allow you to select a color within a clip and then change that color. I'm going to show you 3 different methods using 4 color correction effects in this video. To see how that works, go to Working Files, go to Premiere Pro Projects, and go on down to Single Color. We're going to change the color of this blue bowl to some other color, and we're going to change the color of these lemons right there. Not those lemons, just these lemons there. Go back to this first one. Let's take a look at the effects. Go to the Effects panel, Video Effects, and go to Color Correction. The first effect we're going to use is Change to Color. Now, Change to Color is like Change Color, but Change Color has fewer options, so we're going to use Change to Color. I'm going to apply it to both of these clips, so I'll just marquee select both of them and double-click on Change to Color to add that to both of them. Then go on down here to Generate. Under Generate, there's an effect called Paint Bucket. I'm going to apply that to both of these clips as well. And then back up here to the Color Correction group. There are 3 effects that have a secondary color correction option: the RGB color corrector, RGB curves, and 3-way color corrector. The secondary color correction option works the same on all 3 of them. It's just how the effects deal with the selection you make using the secondary color correction that's important. So we're going to try 2 of these guys out. So let me deselect these 2 over here, and we'll put RGB curves on the first one here, and the 3-way color corrector on the second one. All right, let's get started here. Click on this first fruit bowl and go to the Effect Controls panel. Turn off these other effects. We'll just work only on Change to Color for now. Change to Color does what you'd think it'll do. You get a color and change to something else. Then there's some options in terms of the sort of width of the color. So first of all, let me expand the view a bit here. Let me turn on the View Correction Mat, because this is very helpful for all the effects. You can see what you've selected, so I turn on that. So don't worry that it's turned black. What it's doing here is it's looking for anything that's white, and it's showing that as the thing that's been selected. We're going to change that by selecting this little eyedropper here, and once you click on it and then move away, it turns this back on again. And now we're going to select something blue here. I'm going to try to find something kind of in the middle range of luminosity. So I'll go for, let's say, this area right there. Hold down the control of the Command key and click there. And that looks pretty good. We selected most of the bowl, but we want to adjust that a bit. And we adjust that by using the hue, lightness, and saturation controls down here. We'll open this up a little bit, and we'll adjust the hue. We'll expand the hue here a bit. And you see how it's changing? A little bit there around the fruit, just a little bit. I'm going to check out lightness, but I think we're okay. Basically can't really improve upon what we selected. If I go too far to the left, you'll see that we start losing things. And saturation might change a little bit, but not much. I think we've had a pretty good selection there as well. Again, we're just going to stick with the default of 100%. Softness can actually make it look too fuzzy, so I'll open up softness and I'll show you that works. I'll pull it farther to the right. It gets a little too soft there. So I'll go a little bit to the left, and that kind of improves it a little bit there. But you begin to see some stuff showing up down here as well. All right, now we're going to turn off the correction mat, and by default it turns red. Let's change the color to something besides red. I'll click on you, little swatch there, and we'll go to green, just to make it look different. Click on that, and we'll shift to green. And our work here is not done. We can change this change option from hue to, let's say, hue and saturation. I kind of like sticking with hue. If you use lightness, it looks really weird. In most cases, you probably don't want stuff looking like that. I'm going to stick with just hue. And that's that. Now we could take this clip and sandwich it above a version of the same thing and then use a blending mode to blend the 2 colors together. But I think you see how that works. We just took that color blue and made it something else. Let's do the same thing to the citrus down here. Click on you. See that it's already working because these effects are turned on. Let's turn them off. Turn off Paint Bucket. Turn off the 3-way color corrector and just change the color. Open that up. Same routine as before. Click on the eyedropper. Hover over the fruit here, the lemons. And I'm going to hold down the control of the Command key to get a good sample. Let's see how things went here by going to the View Correction Mat. And we're selecting a lot of stuff. I don't want to get this other stuff here. I want to just limit myself to this area here. So I've created a track mat to do that. If you haven't watched the track mat lesson, I recommend you do that. I'm going to kind of just go through it really quickly here. I'm going to go to the project panel. I've got this mat that I made. I'll double click on it so I can show it to you. So I created this mat here, that little guy right there. Not the rest of the stuff, just this mat. I'll turn this off so you can see what I'm talking about. That's the mat. Let me close this down. I'm going to put that mat on track 3 and make it the same length. I'm going to duplicate this clip down here. So I'm going to hold down the Alt or the Option key and lift it up like that. The thing is, both clips now are loaded with effects. So I'm going to take the one on the bottom here and delete all those effects. So we need to apply the track mat here to limit our area to just that. So I go back to Effects, and I go on down to Keying. There it is. And get the track mat there at the bottom. And double click on that and add that. Go back to Effect Controls and tell the track mat to go to video track 3 to find the match. Now we're limiting ourselves to just that region. Let's go back to hue and look at the change to color again. We can look at the various tolerances here. We'll go to the hue tolerance, see how much we want to expand that. There we go. But what we're doing, we're also picking up all this brown there, which is maybe not what we want to do. Let's check that out anyways. Go to lightness, and this might help a little bit. Try to get to the left a little bit here and see what happens if we can get rid of some of that box. And look at saturation. Same kind of routine. If we go back to the left, we can get rid of the box because the box is kind of desaturated. That helps limit our selection to just the lemons. Now that we've made the selection, we'll turn off the view correction matte and we'll change the color to something else besides the default red. Change it to a purple, I guess. There we go, like so. And that's our ending result, which is not maybe all that satisfying. But because we have a track matte here, we can use blending modes and opacity on this clip above the other one and see how that works. So I'm going to go up here to opacity and then change the opacity a bit. We can do it like that, make it a little more subtle. Also change the blending mode, and I suggest we go on down to hue. That works pretty well. There you go. Or color. They both work similarly. So because we have a track matte, you have the option of using a blending mode and opacity when you're working it down here, like that. Close this down and turn that off. Turn on Paint Bucket, which automatically makes a selection. Paint Bucket has this little 4-pointed thing here that tells you there's going to be some kind of a target inside there. In this case, it's a target. When you select it, you get a little target right there in the middle. So you're really selecting an object here, and then you're going to change its color. This little color swatch down here says the color you're changing it to, not the color you're selecting. So if I move this guy out of there, it's going to start changing some other colors as I go to different areas. Let's turn on the view threshold, which is very much like we saw before with the black and white telling you what we selected. And now we can adjust the tolerance, but the tolerance here is not as precise as the 3 sliders we saw inside the change to color. So we go to tolerance, and it's just a slider. We go a little bit more to the right, we bring in more, which brings in the backdrop and other elements as well. So it's not the most precise way to select the color. But it can be very effective if you have a color that's very distinct. So you see a lot of people doing things with chroma key green, for example. That's a great color to select because hardly anything else can be that color. So if you want to work with a paint bucket, then I suggest you work with a color that you know is easy to select. Nevertheless, that's what we've done there. We've managed to make that work fairly well. You can change from color in alpha to just straight color, but it works basically the same. The rest of these guys will not work in this case. We'll try color in alpha. We'll turn off the view threshold. And now we'll change it to some other color. We can click this little swatch and pick any color we want. We'll go, let's say, to green for a green bowl, like that. Okay. And there you go. Now we still have this stuff around the edge, which is not exactly what we want to do. But we can drop the opacity a bit to kind of blend it together. And the opacity is built into the effect here rather than having to worry about having a second layer here and using opacity and the effect up there. We can also change the blending mode, actually putting a layer of color on top here. So we can adjust the blending mode perhaps to hue as well, which is kind of a nicer blend, or to color. But again, a lot of the blue still shows through. It's not that effective when the color is not distinct, where you've got a pretty big range and luminance here. Let's go on down to the citrus, take a look at it. Try the same routine. Let's turn off the change to color here. Turn on the paint bucket. It's going to automatically find something because the target is in the middle there. Click on you to find the target. You can barely see it here. You probably can barely see it on your monitor as well, but it's right there in the center. The target says, what are we selecting? And it looks for contiguous things. So it has to be connected. So it's not connecting down here. So if you want to connect down there, you need to apply it twice. If I view the threshold, I think it's a little bit of a bug. It says that it is finding it down there, but in fact it's not. It's only finding the area that's contiguous up here. Let me change a couple things, make sure we've got the blending mode off here. We don't want that on right now. Back to normal. And now you're seeing the real change. Let's adjust the tolerance here. And we'll slide that to the right a bit to try to pick up some more. There we go. And we're not picking up so much of the brown box this time. So we'll turn off view threshold. And now let's change the color to something besides that red. Pick something, let's say blue. Blue fruit. That's kind of extreme. Then again, we can drop the opacity within the effect as opposed to within the clip, which is kind of nice, like that. You can also change the blending mode. Let's go on down to hue again. Okay, so that is the paint bucket. Let's turn that off. Move on back to the fruit bowl again. I'm going to talk about secondary color correction here. So we'll turn off the paint bucket for you and open up RGB curves. Turn that on. Scroll on down here and there's a drop down called secondary color correction. And it works similarly to how we selected color before, but there's some more elements to it and a little bit more precision. So I'm going to turn on Show Mask, which turns everything white. Click on an eyedropper here. You'll see that it switches back to the regular view. I'm going to select the blue here, down inside the bowl. Hold down the Control of the Command key to get a wider selection. And that's all that's been selected. but we can add to the selection. It's a really clever feature. Click on the eyedropper with a plus next to it, and that'll add to it. Go over here and click another area. I'll click a brighter area like a highlight there. Hold on the controller command and click on that. Now it's better. Let's see what else we need to do. I'd say maybe deeper into the bowl here. So I'll click on the eyedropper with a plus again, go on farther down the bowl, controller command again, click there. Much better. A little bit along the rim there, it's kind of bright, but we'll fix that in a second. Let's go on to hue. Notice you got this guy here, which looks kind of confusing, but it's really quite simple. These two squares basically define the region of the hue that you're going to select. If I go way to the right, you'll start picking up other parts there. And then these little triangles here talk about how it tapers off, the softness. I can let it taper off over a long distance or a short distance. I'll expand it a bit here until it stops being effective. Right around there. Expand it that way. Pretty good. We do need to go deeper into the bowl here, so let's scroll on down here to saturation. This will change a little bit, but let's be subtle, I think. Picked up a couple things there, but at some point we don't need to go any farther there. And then Luma will be the one that changes things as we go down into the bowl. I'm going to make things darker. Look for darker areas. Expand down in the bowl a little bit. Not too much. Maybe I want to take one more sample here. Click on the plus there and go deeper into the bowl. Hold on the controller command and pick that. That's better. Going down a little bit farther now, we can have end softness and edge thinning. Two more cool things that allow you to fix things up. So I go to end softness. Now you don't want to make it too soft because it gets looking like that, right? Just a little bit of softness just to kind of make things a little more gradual. And edge thinning really should be called edge changing because you can make it thinner, move in basically, or make it thicker and go out. I could try to bring in that highlight a little bit more here by Luma. Let's try that. Okay, that's a pretty good selection, I think. So we'll turn off the mask. Now you use these controllers here to affect the color. So if I want to take some blue out, for example, that's how that works. Makes it green. If I want to make it greener, take the blue out and add some green midtones. There you go. Red is a little bit of a problem. Doesn't work so nice when we got this blue bowl here, even though we selected it. Take some blue out and add some red. Only along the edges. Not much red there. If I lift this way up like that, just begins to come in a bit there. It's hard to really get the red to work on your behalf when you got something that's already so darn blue. But that's the basic process there. Your best bet probably is to make this thing tend toward green like that. It does have that kind of odd little glow to it. Again, you could fix this if you put this clip above another clip and then try to use the blending mode to fix that. But to be clear here, you're working with both chroma and luminance here when you work with the RGB curves. Let's go over to you. We'll work on the three-way color corrector here. Click on the top one there. Turn on the three-way color corrector like that. It has the same secondary color correction property. Open you up, same routine as before. Show mask. Click on this eyedropper. Click inside here someplace. I'll go get a dark area. Hold on the controller command. Select that. And not much happened. We'll add to that by clicking on top where it's brighter. And again, not much happened because it's so bright, it's almost being viewed as white as opposed to yellow. So it's not really picking up the color here all that well. It's just a little tricky to get it right. So we need to adjust it using these controllers down here. If we expand the hue, I don't think it's going to change much. It's not really the hue that's the issue here. It's the Luma that's the issue. So let's get that guy open up again like so. Let's go down a little bit farther. Saturation might help a little bit here. There we go. But we still haven't got the Luma figured out yet. Going down to Luma and try to get a brighter end here. There we go. Get the highlights in the top of the lemons coming in now. Maybe darken the areas just a bit too to expand that a bit without going down to the brown carton there. We can soften things up a bit, not much, just a little bit. If you want to look at the thinning or thickening, thicken it up just a bit like that. All right, we'll turn off the mask and see what these controls can do for us. Let's check out what we're changing here. I'm going to go to the tonal range definition and take a look at that. And we see we're working with midtones and highlights only here. Don't need to work on shadows because we're not really going to affect anything with that. So let's turn that off. Let's take a look at the midtones here and let's pull it towards purple. It's just adjusting the midtones there. Let's adjust the highlights as well toward purple. Didn't quite get everything. That's the problem. It's pretty hard to get everything there, but let's try something. Now that we know we didn't get this, I'm going to click on the plus again and go right for that little spot there that we didn't get. So even now, we can still go back and fix the color selection. Now that we've done this, again, we can use the opacity and the blending modes up here. So I can adjust the opacity here, just drop that down a little bit if we'd like. Change the blending mode, let's say on down to hue, for example. There you go, or to color. Those two guys work pretty well, I think. So there you have it. 3 different methods to select a color in a clip and then change that color.